ASAP Rocky and his son, Daddy's Love. The night the world saw him cradle his son beneath a sky full of camera flashes, something shifted. It wasn't the diamonds at his neck or the roar of a stadium chanting his name that made the moment unforgettable. It wasn't the swagger, the silk, the tailored perfection, or the generational influence he carried in every stride. It was the way his shoulders softened when he leaned down. The way his voice dropped an octave. The way his fingers, those same fingers that had gripped microphones, signed contracts, shaped culture, curved protectively around a child small enough to fit in one arm. The crowd saw a superstar. The child saw Daddy. And in that quiet exchange between legend and little boy, the mythology of fame dissolved into something infinitely more powerful: love. This is not a story about charts, awards, controversies, or headlines. Those are easy to find. This is about the private gravity that pulls a man back home. It is about fatherhood in its rawest form. It is about legacy not as wealth or reputation, but as heartbeat, breath, example. It is about ASAP Rocky and his son, and the kind of love that rewrites a man from the inside out. The boy from Harlem. Before he was a global name, he was a boy navigating the unforgiving rhythm of Harlem streets. Survival was not an abstract concept, it was daily choreography. Loss came early. Responsibility came faster than childhood should allow. He learned how to move with caution. He learned how to read rooms. He learned how to make something out of nothing. And somewhere inside that young boy was a silent promise: if I ever have a son, I will be there. It wasn't spoken out loud. It didn't need to be. It lived in the spaces where absence once echoed. It grew in the shadows of memories too heavy for a child to carry. The world would eventually know him as a fashion icon, a genre shifter, a cultural architect. But before all that, he was a son who understood what it meant to long for protection. That longing never left him. It simply transformed. Years later, when he held his own child for the first time, that old promise resurfaced, no longer a wish, but a vow. When a man becomes a father, fatherhood does not ask permission. It arrives and rearranges everything. The first cry pierces deeper than any lyric ever written. The first time tiny fingers wrap around yours, the world's priorities recalibrate instantly. Fame becomes background noise. Applause feels temporary. Sleep becomes rare. Love becomes infinite. For ASAP Rocky, the arrival of his son did not diminish who he was, it clarified him. There is a particular look men get when they realize someone is depending on them in a way that has nothing to do with contracts or crowds. It is equal parts awe and terror. It is pride and humility colliding. It is the sudden awareness that your life is no longer only yours. He had conquered stages across continents. But this? This was sacred ground. In interviews, in fleeting candid moments, in the way he carried himself afterward, there was a noticeable shift. Not softer in ambition. Not smaller in presence. Just deeper. Anchored. Because fatherhood is not about losing edge. It's about finding center. Daddy's hands. Watch closely and you'll see it, the instinctive adjustments. The way he supports his son's head with practiced care. The way he bends slightly when speaking to him, even when there's no need. The way laughter escapes him more easily when his child is near. Hands that once symbolized status now symbolize safety. There is something poetic about a man known for commanding attention choosing instead to focus on a single pair of curious eyes. In those moments, the spectacle fades. The father remains. Daddy's hands tell a story. They are steady. They are protective. They are present. And presence, in a world of constant motion, is perhaps the rarest gift of all. The weight of legacy. When you are a public figure, legacy is often discussed in terms of influence, cultural impact, artistic innovation, financial milestones. But fatherhood introduces a different metric. Legacy becomes bedtime stories. It becomes school drop-offs. It becomes teaching a child how to tie his shoes, how to speak kindly, how to stand tall. ASAP Rocky understands the power of narrative. He has shaped his own story carefully. But now, there is another narrative unfolding beside his, one that he cannot fully control, only guide. His son will grow up with access, with privilege, with opportunity beyond imagination. But privilege without grounding is fragile. So the real work begins at home. The real legacy is not the empire. It is the example. Breaking cycles. There is a quiet revolution in fathers who choose presence. For men who grew up witnessing instability or absence, fatherhood can feel like stepping into uncharted territory. There are no blueprints for tenderness if tenderness was never modeled. There are no maps for patience if chaos was the norm. But healing often begins when a man decides that history will not repeat itself. Breaking cycles does not require grand announcements. It happens in small choices. In showing up. In listening. In apologizing when necessary. In choosing softness over silence. For RZA Rocky, being a father is not only about loving his son, it is about redefining what manhood looks like. Strength does not diminish when a man rocks his baby to sleep. Power does not fade when a father wipes away tears. Cool does not disappear in the presence of vulnerability. If anything, it expands. The balance between spotlight and shadow. The world watches celebrities with relentless curiosity. Every outing becomes a headline. Every gesture is analyzed. Parenting under that microscope requires intention. How much do you share? How much do you protect? How do you allow your child to experience normalcy when nothing about your life is ordinary? RZA Rocky walks that line carefully. Public moments of affection are balanced with private boundaries. There is pride, yes. But there is also protection. Because children deserve space to grow without performance. They deserve to stumble without commentary. They deserve a childhood that feels like their own. In choosing when and how to reveal his son to the world, he demonstrates something profound. Fame may be inherited, but privacy must be defended. Love without performance. There is a difference between loving loudly and loving deeply. The loud version is curated. It's captioned. It's applauded. The deep version is quieter. It exists in early mornings and late nights. In diaper changes and whispered reassurances. In moments too intimate for cameras. Daddy's love, in its purest form, needs no audience. It is the way he checks on his son before leaving for work. It is the FaceTime call from a tour bus. It is the kiss on the forehead when he returns home, exhausted but grateful. These are the moments that build trust. These are the moments that teach a child, I am safe. Lessons in style and substance. Style has always been part of RZA Rocky's language. Fabric, silhouette, color, he communicates through aesthetic as fluently as through music. But now, there is a new student observing him. Children learn not through lectures, but through imitation. They watch how you treat people. They watch how you respond to stress. They watch how you carry yourself when things go wrong. The greatest fashion statement a father can model is integrity. The most valuable accessory is consistency. And the most timeless trend is kindness. If his son grows up understanding that confidence and compassion can coexist, that creativity and responsibility are not opposites, then the lesson will have been taught well. Fatherhood in a changing world. Modern fatherhood looks different than it did generations ago. Today's fathers are encouraged to be emotionally available, actively involved, unapologetically affectionate. For a man who came of age in environments that often equated masculinity with stoicism, embracing this evolution is powerful. It sends a message beyond his own household. It tells other men, you can be present. You can be gentle. You can be expressive. You can hold your child and still hold your ground in the world. Representation matters, not only on screens and stages, but in homes. When influential men embrace visible fatherhood, it reshapes cultural expectations. The soundtrack of home. Music fills arenas. But at home, it fills nurseries. Imagine lullabies hummed in a voice that once electrified festivals. Imagine beats soften to soothe instead of energize. Imagine a father freestyling nonsense rhymes just to make his son laugh. The soundtrack of home is different. It is less about perfection and more about presence. Perhaps one day his son will understand the magnitude of his father's career. Perhaps he will scroll through archives of performances that shook cities. But for now, the greatest performance is peekaboo. The loudest applause is giggles. And the most important audience is one small boy who thinks his dad hung the moon. Teaching courage. Courage is not only about facing the world. It is about facing yourself. ASAP Rocky has navigated triumph and controversy, praise, and criticism. Public life guarantees turbulence. But fatherhood introduces a new dimension to bravery. Now, decisions are filtered through a single question: what example am I setting? Choosing integrity when it's inconvenient, that's courage. Choosing accountability when pride resists, that's courage. Choosing family time over extra spotlight, that's courage. When his son watches him stand tall through adversity, he is learning resilience. When he sees his father admit mistakes, he is learning humility. These lessons cannot be bought. They must be lived. The quiet mornings. Not every moment is dramatic. Some are simple. Morning light slipping through curtains. Tiny footsteps padding down a hallway. Sleepy eyes and tangled hair. Breakfast shared at a kitchen.